Harvest Christian Fellowship is a ministry that's been around for nearly 50 years. Our pastor is actually a big fan of technology and media to help him assist with furthering the gospel message.
We're most well known for our large evangelistic events that we hold every year here in SoCal.
This year was a little different, where we shot it a little more cinematically, all 4K UHD, and so OWC recommended the Jellyfish.
The Jellyfish server enables all of our editors to seamlessly work on the same project on different systems, streamlines our workflow. It would be 10 times slower to do our job without it.
Our experience with OWC has been great. It has allowed us to connect with people with the content that we're producing.
OWC, creativity without limits.
I want to welcome everybody to today's session about future-proofing your video workflows. My name is Jason Bloom. I am the CTO at GPL Technologies. By way of quick introduction, GPL Technologies is a full-service IT systems integrator. We serve the media and entertainment industry. We go way back dealing with video workflows, so this is going to be a fun talk today. With me is Jay Rohn from VFXnow, our sister company that does a lot of rental gear. Jay, tell us a little bit about VFXnow and how you guys support the industry.
Absolutely. I'm Director of Hardware as a Service for VFXnow, and we focus primarily on providing efficient and powerful solutions across all sorts of hardware to anybody in M&E and any industry that extends beyond.
Thanks, man. And also with me today is Connor Sterling from OWC Jellyfish. He's a solutions architect, and he's going to bring a lot of expertise to our workflow discussion today. Connor, can you tell us a bit about what you do and the Jellyfish team?
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. So OWC Jellyfish is a shared storage solution for post-production. So anyone from M&E to creating content can either directly connect via switch, and get up and running and start creating.
Outstanding. Thanks, man. So today we're going to talk a lot about workflows. We're going to talk about the hardware that supports those workflows as they relate to media production. Let's start with you, Jay, because it all comes down to the infrastructure that things run on, right? That's kind of the foundation that you start from. How do you guys size out hardware for people when they call in? Like, hey, I got a shoot I'm going to do, or I have an event that I need to roll some equipment out to. I've got 5 cameras, or I need to render 1,000 frames on Redshift. Where do you start when you're talking to a customer?
That's a great question, Jason. We essentially work to build an assessment with our customers, and whether that just be an information gathering piece of determining what's currently in place that the customer is using, how they're using it, and where we can benefit by inserting some of the hardware that we can supply. And it can branch between a very deep technical conversation on networking, storage requirements, but overall we look to see how we can supply, and is that requiring, how much storage do you need? What kind of capacity do you need to render? And what are the current bottlenecks that we can try and eliminate when we provide solutions for you? It depends on the customer, of course, but every need is different. And so I think just a brief assessment, we call them, we get on the horn, and we talk about how do we what they really need, and we branch out, whether it be providing Jellyfish, or providing storage we have, or providing powerful workstations we have, or providing network equipment to help them kind of boost to that next level in that future proofing of this either project that they're working on or globally.
So Jay, I'm going to toss this to you first, and let me kind of preface this by saying at GPL, when we build out solutions, one of the main things that we're looking at is the scalability of what we're building, right? Not just building it for the 200 terabytes or whatever you need today, but building it so you can expand that in the future, because no one ever needed less, right? No one ever like decided, oh, I'm gonna throw a bunch of stuff away and I only need 50 terabytes now, right? People always need more of everything. Resolutions grow, staff grows. You need to be able to flex, right? So your company is kind of built to help do that. Run us through what it looks like when you're talking to a customer, and how you figure out what they need, and then zero in on the right solution for them that gives them that scalability and that kind of access.
Absolutely. We see a lot of customers generally come with a kind of what they need already, and we like to work with them and then shape it. This is great, we can definitely meet this need. but is this going to be enough? Do we provide? And so we work with them on a base assessment to determine what's their efficiency like. Are they collaborative, or what can they use to collaborate? In the future, are they looking at something that needs to be more cost effective, where our rental solutions can really come into play by rotating those in and out and making it so that you don't have to own this equipment to use it, but you get this high powered performance at ease whenever you need it, and an upgrade whenever you need it, which is very much a huge benefit in today's age. Otherwise, there are some customers that do come to us and say, this is exactly what we want. And this is what we want for now, this is what we want for the long term. And that's where we kind of differ and pass back between our sister company GPL to kind of determine, is this a sale tactic or is this a rental tactic? But overall, our goal is to make sure that the customer is the most efficient as possible when it comes to their networking stack, their storage stack, their workflow, mostly on how they get everything through, and how their artists work, and making sure that what we're providing is going to be an end solution for them.
Let's talk a little bit about how you determine what the right solution is for somebody, right? Because there's tons of machines back there, there's tons of storage back there. Everything from these Jellyfish sitting on the table all the way up to multi-petabyte storage systems. How do you consult with someone to determine where they're at, what they need? Because there's a power factor, right? Can the facility support that many, that much power? Is there rack space for these things? Is there cooling for these things? Do they need to be able to grow it on the fly and shrink it on the fly? What are some of the questions that you ask these people, and how do you determine what works for them?
Yeah, that's definitely what's included in what we ask them. And then on top of that, it's, what are you working in? What's your deliverable? Because the deliverable tells us a lot about what they need to shape and what they need to work on to achieve it, and what their workflow is like. Are you working in a proxy workflow? Are you working in final deliverable, which is what we see less of these days, and more so finishing gets taken on. So we try and get the nitty-gritty, of course, of breaking down their codecs, understanding their platforms and applications they're using. And once we know more of that, we can definitely build a solid ground for them. If not, if they already have one, how do we help extend that ground for them?
Right. Now, let's say somebody works with your team to rent some gear, and they're having issues integrating it, or they're having issues understanding how to operate it or manage it. What does it look like, I guess, post-sale, right? What does that look like from a support perspective? Is that something that you are willing to help with, or are they kind of on their own?
Absolutely. What we try and bring with our hardware as a service model is to take all this powerful hardware and anything that we supply and provide it with expert service 24/7. And that allows us to build this service model that some folks are not necessarily keen to using, where they rent some hardware and they're not going to have any backup if something happens. For us, whatever hardware you rent, we'll replace it if something goes wrong and it needs to be replaced, or we'll come out and troubleshoot what needs to be done to get you back up and running and make sure that you're working efficiently. And I think that's a really positive solution for renting hardware. And it's nice to be able to provide that, see the smiles on our customers' faces, just to know that they're going to be able to move forward and not hit these bottlenecks that maybe they're used to in the past. So it gives them a good experience, solid hardware, and a good foundation for keep moving forward.
Yeah, I think there's always been rental shops that specialize in cameras and lights. I think there's been rental shops that specialize in IT systems, but there hasn't really been a good rental shop until you guys popped up that kind of fuses the understanding of media entertainment with the flexibility of being able to rent the hardware that you need.
Absolutely. Creatives are ever changing, their needs are ever changing, the workflows are ever changing, and we see this technology just constantly going. So for VFXnow, we are more so an R&D house. We get to test all this equipment and really make sure that we're getting the latest and greatest, much like anything we can experience with Jellyfish and all the fantastic tools you have there, and provide that to our customers.
What are some of the tests that you run? Like, how do you bench things, or how do you determine what makes the most sense to buy next? Because you don't have unlimited funds to buy stock, right? So you have to be choosing things that make sense for the greatest number of people and have the highest performance without breaking the bank at the same time. So how do you guys do that?
The easiest way is we stay in tune with our customers and what they're currently working on, and we bring that back into house, whether it be the latest GPU or a big server, and we try and test this against workflows that we know are happening out and about in the world. You could be, in a DaVinci workflow, or you could be in an Avid workflow, Premiere, or getting into VFX and going crazy with Houdini. The beauty of it is when we learn these with our customers and their workflows, we can bring it back in-house and benchmark everything that they're doing and the tools that we've been giving them to hopefully build on that and make it a stronger system, or say, hey, maybe this isn't what you need. Give them something else.
Yeah, why don't you tell me a little bit about the hosting facilities that you guys are providing and some of the remote access? Because I think that plays into this, where people can provisionally rent something and connect to it and test their workflows remotely before they commit to actually having it on site and rolling it out to wherever they're going to do their job.
I'm happy you asked that. It's amazing. We have, a co-location, which we can support a bunch of customer hardware that's not independent on their site and accessible from anywhere. We also have a location right behind us, and that's allowing us to spin up anything that we can rent on a very, very cost-efficient daily, weekly, or monthly rates. And you can have that powerful hardware at your fingertips wherever you are, would not have to have it delivered or shipped, and save some time there. But the powerhouse is remotely connecting to something this day and age is the norm for all of us. And providing that capability is something that we really are in tune with, where you can have a full render farm sitting somewhere off site that you don't have to manage. It follows the same support tactics that we provide for any of our rental gear. And so anytime you just want to try something, you don't even have to have it on site. We can spin it up for you here, get you a connection in a preferred method, whether that's a brokered connection or VPN. We try and work with the customer in any angle to make it fit.
So that sounds a lot like cloud services like AWS or GCP or Azure, one of those, except with bare metal, right? Having kind of that custom bespoke hardware on demand. So.
Yeah, the on-demand function is key. If you don't want to place this, going back to that model of like, oh, do I have to purchase this? Do I have to pay an extended cost that's going to be absurd for these other cloud providers that can definitely build what we need? But it's a cost-effective solution that we can build for them.
Tell me a little bit about the storage that you're renting now. I know that Jellyfish plays a part in this. When you're talking to customers, how often are they right about the amount of storage they need? Do you see them coming back and needing to scale up over time?
Absolutely. Yeah. So more often than not, which is kind of a new tactic we're looking at, is a lot of customers have it set, we need 100 terabytes, for example. But yes, like it was mentioned, you always need 100 extra terabytes. And so that's what we try and mention to everybody is, okay, cool, here's this level, we're gonna maybe provide you with this cluster. And it's going to allow you the flexibility to grow in the next 6 months with this workflow potentially. But at least it's a baseline, so you're not coming back and asking to extend it, build it, and you need all this support to kind of keep growing. But yeah, we've seen a lot of great success stories so far with the tower and with other Jellyfish products, because you have this ability to direct connect and you don't necessarily need this huge expansive network to go ahead and jump in. On top of that, you can if you need it. So we've seen both cases where the storage need is either big or small, petabytes of storage, and we typically will look at Dell or Isilon stuff. Cumulo is another good one. And then for the need that fits in the best, we really like Jellyfish.
That's a pretty good point to kind of toss it over to Connor and start talking about the Jellyfish stuff in a little bit more detail. Connor, maybe start out by telling us where Jellyfish fits best. I know that there are a lot of products in the line. I know, there's this guy with a handle on it. Clearly it's meant to be taken places. But there's a lot of rack stuff also. And then there's also desk side tower stuff. So give us a general overview of where you see yourself fitting in the media storage environment. And let us know, how can we best use your storage to fit those needs?
Yeah, for sure. I think the best place to start with that is really talking about where Jellyfish came from, right? Jellyfish came from folks that were working in the media and entertainment industry that were trying to cut 4K. They were tired of passing RAID drives back and forth, waiting for a turn, trying to find assets that had been put on different, direct attached storage. And so what they came up with was a server solution that was portable. They were able to directly connect. They didn't need a switch, and they could run 4K footage on that server. And so what that's grown into is the Jellyfish product line, which has, like you said, a lot of different niches that we can fill starting with the Nomad that's right beside you, which is our portable all NVMe server. And then you have the R24 at the other end, which is a rack mounted 24 drive spinning disk SAS disk solution that you can directly connect 16 people to. So we do have solutions that fit across the gamut, starting with our direct attach origins and then all the way up to being perfectly at home in a data center with rack storage and feeding into network switches with 25 gig, 40 gig, 100 gigabit connections to serve these really intense workflows, right? And that's kind of where it all starts with is what's your workflow, what's your bandwidth needs, what's your storage needs, and we can put you in the right Jellyfish.
Yeah, that's great. So to talk a little bit more about direct connection, direct connection to a Jellyfish. Because I think that's where, coming from an enterprise IT background back in the day, nobody plugs directly into storage. Everyone plugs into a switch. The switch connects you to all your servers, one of which is your storage. But with the Jellyfish, you can have editors working directly off of the storage. They can plug their machines, output from their Mac directly into the back of the Jellyfish, nobody in between. How does that work, and what's the minimum and maximum sizes on that?
Yeah, for sure. Talking about the Jellyfish Nomad, which is our newest Jellyfish, that's a really good example of editors directly connecting to shared storage. It's an all NVMe server, so that means there's no moving parts in that storage, there's no spinning disks or anything like that, and it's very low latency. So with that, editors, all they need to do is take a RJ45 or an Ethernet connection, as people would more commonly know it, plug it into either a Thunderbolt adapter to go into their MacBook Pro, or even plug it on the back of their Mac Studio or their PC. And then what will happen is you can actually launch Jellyfish Connect. And Jellyfish Connect is our little lightweight app that allows you to connect to the Jellyfish. What it does is it automatically discovers the Jellyfish. It'll set up jumbo frames for you and it will enable that 10 gigabit connection for you. And then you're up and running. You can see that server, you can see your footage, and you can actually manage things like users and permissions and create shares and all this awesome stuff without needing to go through a network switch. Now, on the bandwidth side, the Jellyfish Nomad has an aggregate bandwidth of about 6,000 megabytes a second. So because there's 6 10 gig connections on there, that means each person that's connected to that 10 gigabit connection will have 1,000 megabytes of bandwidth. Now, anything over that on the 10 gigabit side, you're going to exceed the limit of the connection itself. When we talk about aggregate speed, that's all the connections working together. And I think that's kind of the gotcha with direct attached storage, is you have to be conscious of how much bandwidth does my workflow require and how much am I asking of the drives, right? Now, if I'm an artist that's pulling DPX frames or EXR frames over a 10 gigabit connection, if they're uncompressed at 24 frames a second, that's going to far exceed a 10 gigabit connection, right? But if I'm an editor that's editing ProRes or even Red Raw and maybe a couple streams of Red Raw, that 10 gigabit connection is going to be perfectly fine, right? When we get up to the larger servers, the R24, the Jellyfish XT, which is the all SAS flash unit that we have, that's where we can get a lot more bandwidth. Now, with the Jellyfish XT, that is the only Jellyfish that we require you to have a network switch for. And that's purely because there's too much power behind it to actually offer direct connections. So we require you to have a switch for that network, and it offers dual 100 gigabit connections. So you set those up to your network switch, and you can have 25 gig, 40 gig connections coming out of that switch to support these crazy workflows that the Jellyfish XT was really designed for.
We can talk about the XT in 1 second. Let's go back to how Direct Connect and the way Jellyfish works is inherently kind of this workflow upgrade for a lot of people who are passing around drives or maybe working just on external systems as an independent editors. The fact that you can plug directly into this thing and immediately connect to media and start sharing that media, how have you seen that impact people who haven't had that ability in the past? Is that something, because really workflow efficiency is about doing more with less and making expensive artists more efficient. So tell us a little bit about cases where that you've seen improvements from that kind of manual pass it around workflow into just dropping a Jellyfish in. What's that been like?
Yeah, I think it's great seeing teams get their Jellyfish, and even when we describe, you don't need a network switch to do this. what really draws editors to the Jellyfish is its ease of use and simplicity, right? Editors don't know how to set up a switch most of the time. Most editors don't. If you're an editor who knows how to set up a switch, good for you. But a lot of editors don't know how to do that, and they don't really want to know how to do that. That's not part of their job. What the Jellyfish does is it enables those creatives to plop this thing down on the desk, just like they would a normal hard drive, connect together and share and collaborate. And we're seeing more collaboration in software than ever before. You know, Media Composer has been a collaborative platform for a really long time, but now DaVinci Resolve with their cloud databases and collaborative databases, as well as Adobe Premiere with Productions, we're compatible with all these softwares and their collaborative functions. And what that's done is it's allowed editors to spend less time searching for their footage and more time creating and more time getting those revisions in, right? And making better products. All from the fact that you don't have to hunt for, oh, that shot was on this drive from like 2 years ago, or where's that piece of stock music, right? It's all there, hopefully organized, and then you can start pulling that into your projects and working.
Yeah, that's honestly at GPL, that's the credo that we live by, is taking that complexity of IT out of the artistic process and just letting people get to work. You know, I think everybody sitting here, that's why we do what we do, is to make it easier for artists to collaborate, make it easier for them to get their job done, and let them be creative, not be technicians. And they shouldn't have to know how to connect to storage. They shouldn't have to know how to set up a switch. They should just be there doing what they do best, which is creating awesome stuff. And I think that you guys are definitely putting out equipment that can help them do that. To that end, let's talk a little bit about your asset management system, Kino, right?
Yeah.
There's tons of asset managers out there. You know, there's everything from simple indexers all the way up to huge workflow managers. Tell us a bit about Kino, where it came from, how it works, what it costs, what you got to do to set it up, and what kind of improvements you've seen Kino bring to people's workflows.
So Kino is a light media asset manager that actually comes with your Jellyfish. So you get that for free. And the cool thing about it is that it enables you to tag your footage, set in and out points, actually send that footage directly into your NLE with all the metadata that you've added, whether that's descriptions or flags, markers. And what it enables you to do is quickly call up those assets. So, you know, for a lot of editors who are on Macs or, you know, Mac OS, they're very used to looking for their files in Finder, right? And doing a very quick preview, but Finder's not really built for you as a video editor. What Kino is a much better Finder for video assets. So if I'm able to search those things that have been tagged and pull those up, gather them either in an XML folder or, like I said, directly send that to our NLE, that's a really powerful tool for a lot of editors, because most of them, when they're coming from that direct attached storage world, they're used to going to find subfolders of subfolders of subfolders to find that footage, to find that shot, to find that stock music that they need for this production. The cool thing about Kino is that the license is actually held on the Jellyfish server. So when you add more users to your Jellyfish, whether that's directly attached or through a network switch, what you're able to do is once they see that Jellyfish and they're set up and connected, if they need to launch Kino, they can, and it'll look at the Jellyfish for that license. So you don't need to go buy more licenses for Kino. All you need to do is plug somebody in, have them download the app from Jellyfish Connect, and they're up and running.
That's great, because I think people oftentimes make the mistake of using their file system as an asset manager. You know, it's like, hey, this folder contains these, 10 subfolders and it's different, B-roll and different assets or whatever. And it becomes really cumbersome when you don't have a solid, taxonomy established for those things. And having even a light asset manager really gives people that direct access from a keyword perspective that they wouldn't have working with a file system necessarily, because then they'd have to get into managing file names and making sure that keywords were in file names, and it just takes one person to not do it right for it all to start falling down. So I think it's awesome that this is included. On your side, Jay, what have you seen people using for asset managers out there? Do you see a lot of asset management, or is it mostly just people with file shares and folders named for cameras and assets?
You see some that maybe have a verbose system, maybe use ShotGrid or some level of tool, but most of the time it's general file explorer. It's the customer's way that they built, and they use, and it works for them, and it's not necessarily a full verbose system. Whereas Kino, is an in-platform, ready-to-use system that comes with storage, and you can't ask for anything more than that. So I think that's a good opportunity for a lot of customers to advance with the Jellyfish and see that, and as well as hopefully in their overall goals and how they want to manage all their data coming in and out, and where it is, and who's touching it, and so forth, and what it is in its stage of a delivery.
So a customer could come to you and say, listen, I'm going to have 5 editors that need to work for 3 months. We need 100 terabytes of storage. We want it to work. We want it to be easy. We want to be able to find our data, without having to sift through a file system. You could give them 5 workstations that would be right for the editors. You could give them 100 terabytes of storage like a Jellyfish, and then they could start using Kino with all 5 editors just out of the box and be good to go. No switch, no Active Directory, no nothing else.
Absolutely. They do have integration with Active Directory if you needed it to, but right out of the box, if you look at a solution, Jellyfish brings all that to the table. And then, of course, with VFXnow, we can add the hardware that you need to actually complete and get your artists moving or your editors constantly going and to meet that goal. And right out of the box, it's fantastic.
So, Connor, in the cases where people started with a smaller Jellyfish and they were direct connecting, let's say that those folks have now outgrown that direct connect scenario. Maybe now they have 17 editors, or not even editors, but APs or VFX guys or whatever. What does it look like to scale those systems out? This doesn't look like it's scalable. Maybe it is to some degree, right? But how does that work, and what would you recommend for somebody who's growing outside that initial kind of small pool of artists?
For sure, yeah. It's funny. Some of our oldest clients started with a Jellyfish mobile, and they quickly added another mobile, and then another mobile, and then they decided, well, now we need an R24. Now we need to go into the big rack storage, right? And so with the Jellyfish Nomad, the reason why that isn't necessarily an expandable Jellyfish, meaning that you can't add an extra, expansion chassis, is because it is a portable system, right? We do that for the stability of the system, just to make sure that everything's self-contained. It's designed to go in a nanook case, in an overhead bin on an airline. That is what the Nomad is really built for. But if someone started with a Nomad and they decided, hey, we need to add more than 6 people here, right? We're 10 gigabit connections, but now we've got 12 people that need access to this footage. What you can do is actually take those 6 10 gigabit connections and actually bond them into a network switch, and then add more users through that. So there's lots of upgradability on that front. When you're on something like a Jellyfish Tower or a Jellyfish R24, if you start with direct connections, exactly the same thing. What we can do is take those connections, bond them, go to a switch, or we can replace the actual NIC or network interface card in the unit and give you 25 gig, 40 gig, 100 gig, whatever you need for your switch, we can provide that. Now, in terms of expanding the storage, the Jellyfish Tower, you can expand that one more time, right? And you can add the exact same amount of storage. You double your storage, and the media pool will grow. So you fire that up, give it a restart, and then you're able to see I had 100 terabytes, and now I've got 200 terabytes, and I can start working. All my files are still there. I can just add more. On the R24, you can actually add 4 expansions onto that. So that's our most expandable unit. And really that comes down to its form factor, it's in a rack, and also performance. These have dual CPUs, these have half a terabyte of RAM, 2 terabytes of SSD caching on top of it. And that's how we get the performance out of, a large stack of spinning SAS drives.
So scaling up those systems, what does that look like? Is that literally just plugging it in and it sees it? Or is there something, do we need to engage Jellyfish support to do that? Or is it pretty straightforward and plug it in and push a button and go?
So it's extremely straightforward. You can rack the unit yourself, and there is a mini SAS cable that just goes into the head unit. And then from there, you just give the system a restart. You give us a call on the support line. We'll get in there, make sure that it sees the drives, and then you're good to go. It can be done easily within, an hour or 2 hour period. It doesn't need to be a whole day affair. Sorry, go ahead.
That's great. No, I was just going to say, I think where a lot of this stuff fits in really well is on set, or like, stage productions where people are doing camera capture. What kind of solutions would you offer for something like that?
These nomads are fantastic, but even then growing, and more so towers. Towers are great because they provide a lot of storage. They're still mobile to a great degree. They're not racked. You can move them around. But in hindsight, I've also seen it in VFX houses where they just need a simple storage solution like an R24 that it gives them that high performance to upload and download these bigger files that they're creating. And that's kind of what I would pitch. If you need a rack solution, you have your R24. If you need more of a standalone solution, go with your Nomad or Tower.
Okay, hey Connor, tell us a little bit more about the things that are packaged in with Jellyfish, from management to asset management to everything that goes into running the Jellyfish ecosystem. What does that look like?
Yeah, of course. The most important app that comes with your Jellyfish, and the most important app in the entire Jellyfish ecosystem, is Jellyfish Connect. We talked about it a bit before, but what Jellyfish Connect does is lives on your workstation, whether you're on Mac or Windows, and it auto-discovers the Jellyfish, and it will set up the network connection for you. So set the IP address, enable 10 gigabit, and allow you to log in to the Jellyfish. And how you manage that login is actually through Jellyfish Manager. Jellyfish Manager is great because it really is a graphic user interface. It's meant for people who are not IT professionals, right? It's meant for people who are editors who just need to create a user, create a share, start dumping their data, and get going. On the workflow side of things, we offer two really important tools. The first one being Kino, which we talked a bit as a light media asset manager. But there's also a secret weapon that the Jellyfish has, and that's Jellyfish Media Engine. Media Engine runs on the Jellyfish, and it's browser-based. So once you're connected to the Jellyfish, you actually go into Media Engine and you can see your media. And what Jellyfish Media Engine can do is transcode that media to any flavor of proxy that you require. So that's really powerful for folks that don't have an extra workstation to throw at rendering, right? I have 3 editors, 4 editors, they're all working, but some of them might need proxies. That's what Jellyfish Media Engine is for. We can render, your flavor of ProRes or Avid DNX, and folks can get up and going with proxies as that's rendering. All you have to do is select the files, add them to the render queue, and it'll do its thing.
So that's great. So you can transcode directly on the Jellyfish itself. You don't need an external box. Exactly. That's great because that's 2 birds with 1 stone, right? You don't need to move it someplace over the network, which is one win, and you don't need a second system, which is a second win. So that's actually really great. Are there limitations to that, or in terms of file formats or anything that you can't do that people might want to do? Is there something that they should be aware of, or is it pretty broad?
So it is very broad. There are lots of formats that we can transcode to. What it comes down to is that, we're seeing a lot of raw formats, obviously, right? For a lot of folks, and that's usually where they need proxies. Some raw formats aren't supported, some are. We're continuing to add codec support to Media Engine as we see these cameras pop up, right? So if your camera's not supported today, look out for it tomorrow for sure.
So on your side, we have the entire infrastructure required to support the workflows, along with some support on the back end once everything is set up to make sure the workflow is working. And then on the Jellyfish side, we've got Kino, we've got Media Engine, we have Jellyfish Connect, and all the pieces that are helping people talk to the media and work on the media. You kind of have an end-to-end workflow at this point, right? And maybe there might be some points at which you're pushing it a little bit, or you might need a little bit more, but in a lot of cases, it sounds like this is going to be enough for a lot of productions.
Yeah, for future-proofing the video workflow, I think it's partnering with OWC Jellyfish has really allowed us to see their expansion and idea of what they believe the industry is going towards in a mobile/non-mobile method of choice, which is great. It doesn't lock you into that constantly stationary box that you've been seeing in your experience. And on top of that, with what we can provide, add Jellyfish to support, which is fantastic. It is a very future-proof system where you don't have to worry about the technology as it was mentioned. You can focus on being creative. You can focus on being that top artist you are and achieving that without any limitations that you're used to experiencing.
Nice. So on the platform topic really quick, VFXnow has Mac PC systems, so kind of your preference, right? Whatever you're comfortable using. On the Jellyfish side, are there any limitations when it comes to Connect or Media Engine? Well, Media Engine's running on the Jellyfish, but Connect or Kino or any of those other things, is it fully cross-platform at this point, or are there any caveats that people should be aware of?
So with Jellyfish Connect and Kino, we offer those for Mac OS and Windows. And Jellyfish Manager and Media Engine all run on the Jellyfish, so those are all browser-based. But if you're trying to connect a Linux system to the Jellyfish, it's just a manual process at that point. And I think if you're running Linux, you probably have no problem setting that up manually, or at least you have someone in your life who can set up that connection manually for you. But so Connect and Kino are the only things we don't offer for Linux, just because of obviously different OS flavors and such.
I'm glad to hear that. And because I know OWC, if people are familiar with OWC, they've traditionally been very Mac-centric in the things that they do. Is that cross-platform compatibility going to continue into the future now that OWC is, owning Jellyfish? Or we're not going to see it steer all towards Mac, are we? I mean, I just want to make sure that people understand if they get into the Jellyfish ecosystem, they're, regardless of their platform, that they're going to have what they need and they're going to have the support that's required.
Absolutely. OWC as a whole, with all of our solutions, we offer a lot of cross-platform solutions. So, any drive that you buy from OWC, whether it's direct attach or whether it's network attached storage like the Jellyfish, it's going to be compatible with a Mac, with a PC. All of our Thunderbolt devices are actually USB 3 backwards compatible as well. So depending on how you format the drive, it'll work on your PC, it'll work on your Mac, and Jellyfish will always continue to support multiple OSs because that's in the spirit of collaboration, right? You're collaborating with folks, and somebody's going to be on a Mac, somebody's going to be on a PC, someone is going to be on Linux for sure, especially in the visual effects world, right? It's about being able to share your files with everybody, and there shouldn't be any restrictions on that.
I think it's been a pretty great discussion. I mean, we talked a lot about workflows. We talked a lot about the hardware that's required. We talked about how the guys at Jellyfish and the equipment at Jellyfish can support this. Is there anything that you guys want to say as parting words? Jay, anything?
No, I think that we were able to sum up quite a bit of how you can future-proof your video workflow, but also extend it and see, and share how GPL, how VFXnow, and how OWC Jellyfish have all kind of teamed together in an aspect to really make this easy. So whether you're an artist, you're in a faith organization, or you're a scientist, any professional in any field, we can help cater this to you.
How about you, Connor? Anything you want to wrap up with?
Yeah, I think, the highlight of this discussion is really ease of use, right? And how important it is for artists. There are people that can handle the technical side, and obviously we're trying to make solutions that make the technical side very easy to overcome. And really it's about creating. At the end of the day, that's what this is about. So I hope that a lot of these tools from VFXnow, from GPL, from OWC, and especially with the Jellyfish, enable folks to create awesome stuff.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's really ease of use, right? And getting technology out of the way of creators. And from my perspective, making sure that those creators can then scale up and down as they need to, and make sure that the resources that they need to get their jobs done are always there and always working. So, anyway, thanks guys. I really appreciate you guys being here and having this chat with us today. Thanks to all the viewers. Looking forward to doing this with you guys again in the future. And thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great day.